Hello, welcome back to the Subspace bi-weekly developer sync, where we share updates and all the going on within the engineering teams at Subspace and ecosystem team as well. I think we've had a pretty big last couple of weeks, especially from a network standpoint. So, first highlight, I think, is that we have now moved Gemini 3H to being the official incentivized testnet. And that was done in spectacular fashion. I'm sure Jim will have a speech about this in a minute, but I'll just highlight that we had our mini space race, and everything happened much faster than we expected. So we'd set a target of 8 kilobytes, and I think internally, what did we think? 10 to 14 days, I think, is what we were estimating. And we actually, and Jim may talk about this, I know we did a lot of our planning around that being the time. And what did we end up with? 5 days. So our estimates were way off. And since then, we've more than doubled hitting that target. So last I checked, we were over 16 kilobytes, which somebody can check my math. I think that's over 18 petabytes. So, but I know we don't really talk in petabytes. All right. Well, that was the big news. I think in the last couple of weeks. Jim, you want to give ecosystem update?
Yeah, so top of mind, just want to echo Jeremy's thoughts there. So absolutely, we acknowledge straight away the mini space race was over all too quickly for our liking in ecosystem. As Jeremy mentioned, our anticipated time frame was in the 10 to 40 days range, so we thought we had plenty of time. But yeah, it came around like a bullet train. We reached our target in under 13 days from Launchpad, which was the Gemini 3H network launch. We reached our target in under 6 days from liftoff, which is just way beyond our expectations. And we grew Gemini 3H beyond the size of Gemini 3G in under a fortnight. There's a very interesting graph I'm sure we're going to share where you can see the space pledge migrate from 3G over to 3H. It's a sight to behold. And of course, we've continued on past escape velocity, the 8 petabytes, and we're currently sitting at 16.5 petabytes when I checked earlier, and 3G peaked at a shade over 13 petabytes. We had a question from a farmer in the chat earlier asking why 3G had such a small amount of space pledge. It's because everyone's jumped over. We're under, I think, 1 petabyte now over on 3G. So very efficient. Well done, everyone who participated. Thank you, farmers. There's a great roundup on the forum, which I will be adding a link and some other links to this video when it's on YouTube. So other news from ecosystem. Sorry, Jeremy. Yes.
Sorry, I just wanted, while we're on the topic, highlight that Daria did put up the that chart you were referencing in the forum. So maybe we can link on the video to that post. But it is a pretty amazing chart. You see the migration of the from 3G to 3H. So.
Absolutely, great. I'm pleased that's out there, and I've just made a note to add that to the links on the video. Check out below when you like and subscribe, of course. Okay, so other ecosystem updates. Watch this space for a refresh developer outreach program, because Emil and I are working on something cool to provide an environment set up for developer success in our ecosystem. Keep an eye out for announcements. We are still kind of ideating and in the early stages of that, but it's on the way and should excite developers in our community. Next item, ETH Denver. Myself, Jeremy, and our CMO Ikram will be in attendance next week. There is a forum post I've just posted, which again I'll link, and I'm going to put a Discord announcement shortly. It'd be lovely to connect. So my DMs and emails are open if anyone would like to meet and chat about anything subspace, farming, or anything in the Web3 scene. So yeah, reach out, please do. We have just launched a new community contribution section on the website. Again, I'll drop the link. We've had some wonderful community built farming dashboards and tools. So we've had monitoring dashboards from Wolf Rage and RS00. We've had a great Grafana dashboard from Zulkis, who not only created the dashboard, but also submitted a PR to our mono repo to add metrics, which we absolutely love to see. We're super stoked that you took the time to do that, Zulkis, so thank you. We've got in there Python log monitor and node management scripts from Jonathan, our lead governance guild ambassador. He's been around for a while, worth checking out. And we've got sector time tracker from Vexa, a spreadsheet. It's a very easy way to check how others with your hardware are performing, and indeed pop yours in the spreadsheet so others can learn from your experience. And something a similar functionality, but just done a slightly different way. Plot reports from Hake Hardware actually integrates directly with your node and uploads your plotting speed. All these, we're so pleased and grateful to everyone who's submitted. And yeah, again, there'll be a link in the chat below so you can check them out yourself. We've actually added a section to the official docs to highlight and celebrate these contributions. I'm interested to hear from the community as well. I'd love to hear your feedback on having a dedicated Space Acres channel in Discord. So really, we're interested in understanding your thoughts on whether we should split farming support that way. At the moment, we support farmers, regardless of platform, in farm chat and farmer support. Do you think that we should create different homes for them? Let us know. Let me know in Discord or on the forum. Developer office hours on Wednesday. Emil and I will be hosting. Really, it'd be great if you join us.'ve got lots of interesting agenda items and unveiling some alpha this week with a special guest. You're going to get a sneaky peek, I think, in a minute, looking at the call notes. Right, I'm going to round up with some hot topics from our farmers. Big thing is that farmers are reporting that the seed data has indeed mitigated replotting, as we hoped and said it would all along, which is surprising some, because I think we know what happened on 3G. It was a bit painful with the replotting because the blockchain history started at 0, and it's surprising some farmers. So it's not broken. It's working as we anticipated. It's one of the reasons we've been able to get space plotted so quickly. So when you see Daria's graph, you're going to see a very steep line, and all these things, optimizations in the software, everything else, that all contributes to the how steep that line is. Okay, so Feb 15 release. So we've got some users reporting that shutting down is taking a while, and that it's been necessary to kill the process. We are still investigating, and if you could add your experience to the forum thread with logs as text is our absolute ideal to be able to try and hone on exactly what the problem is. I think I've actually experienced this one myself just today. Some users report a slight slowdown in plotting on the latest release, and if you look at the plot report and the spreadsheet, you can see that evidence. But I believe that is a kind of something that's setting us up for further optimizations. And I did see a PR that I'm going to link from Nazar about recording coding concurrency. I was going to see if Nazar wanted to jump in and talk on that a little bit, but before I do that, the final point I have is that I've just seen on the forum that the Feb 15 release also has a problem with plotting stopping while farming. So Nazar's just been able to reproduce that. So I guess we're going to get a fix, or Nazar's going to be working on a fix. But did you want to start kind of unveil record encoding concurrency, Nazar?
Sure. Yeah, there is a pull request. It was merged. It will be part of the next release. Basically, when we introduced Chia proof of space as a component of our consensus for sector encoding, we had a few constraints, and one of the big ones was how much time it takes to construct a single table of the size that we need, such that we can actually prove solution within 1 second on previous versions of Gemini. And that was a big constraint. And the goal of the implementation was to prove as fast as possible, right? To use all of the cores you have, however inefficient it is, to achieve the result as soon as possible. Because if you don't make it in 1 second, you will lose on your reward completely. And that is especially true for farmers with smaller CPUs, like quad-core CPU, which we think is sufficient technically for farming. And all of the optimizations were done to achieve performance there. However, we have done so much improvements, and on the latest version, we have proof of time, which allows us to have more time to actually prove that it is no longer such a big concern. And the February 15th release actually updated implementation in such a way that it does a little bit less concurrency in some places, but when you overlap several encodings in parallel, the total CPU utilization goes up, and you can actually encode more, like in terms of throughput, right? So latency of each individual one gets higher, but you can do more at the same time. And that is something that wasn't taken advantage of in February 15th release, but it will be taken advantage of in the next release. So everyone should hopefully see that the plotting time goes down, but memory usage will go up. And there is a new parameter called record encoding concurrency, which basically says how many records in the same sector will be encoded in parallel at a time. So by default, it is for every 2 cores you have, there will be 1 record encoded at the same time, but not more than 8 records in total. If that is a problem and you'll see like 8 gigabytes of RAM on the farmer, and that's a problem for you, you can actually decrease it with that parameter. If you set it to 1, it will behave basically like before. You can set it to 2, 4, 3, whatever you want. But hopefully in most cases it will not be necessary. And for those with smaller processors, you will probably have less RAM, so your concurrency by default will be lower and you will still not run out of memory. So that's kind of the rationale behind it. But the goal eventually is to make everyone plot faster and more efficiently.
Thanks, Nazar. And we've had some lovely comments actually from farmers who recognise that all these changes we're making to optimize and improve the farmers' UX, they're being noticed and appreciated. Okay, that's everything. That's the roundup from ecosystem. Thanks, Jeremy.
Oh, always a pleasure to listen to the extensive roundup coming out of ecosystem, Jim. I want to note too that like and subscribe. I think Jim is our next blockchain influencer. Love it. So, all right, another kind of something to highlight that will be coming up hopefully this week. We're kind of in the final stages of testing the enabling of Nova, so the EVM domain. We had some kind of ongoing improvements and breaking changes that we didn't want to have hold up. Sorry, I got my breakfast delivered mid-call here. Great. It threw me off. So we had some breaking changes that were just going to be easier if we could get them all in at once before enabling Nova. And while we're doing the space race and such, we figured let's take that time. Of course, space race went faster, so now the spotlight is on. Where is our EVM domain? Well, it's coming. So I think Ning has tested the process locally for this. We'll be testing in DevNet hopefully today, and hopefully by developer office hours, we'll actually have something for developers to develop on this week. So All right, what else do we have? Space Acres. This had been, how did you put it, Nazar? An unopinionated, or
It
an
is opinionated.
opinionated, unofficial um, GUI implementation or something along those lines. But now we can remove the unofficial. It is officially supported by Subspace. It is in the Subspace repo. Space Acres is part of the Subspace tooling and farming implementation, which is quite exciting. And I'll just plug that there's a lot of open issues on that repo, and we would love to see community jumping in and contributing. We know that there are a lot of community members using it. Last I checked, we were well over 500 nodes nodes running within Space Acres. So yep, give back, contribute if you see anything. Yes, Jim.
Yeah, so two things. One is that obviously with the announcement that Space Acres is becoming officially supported, we're going to pivot our efforts to make sure that there's robust documentation, which is something we're working on in ecosystem right now. And just to highlight that our refreshed approach to developers, those issues, and there's plenty of good first issues in the repo, that's going to be a cornerstone of our efforts. So yeah, please do take a look at the repo. There's some stuff there that it's not too scary, and we're going to be supporting people who want to contribute. So yes, please do check it out. Thanks.
Another upcoming I don't know what you call it, feature that will be Ning will be working on here soon is moving challenge period from being measured in domain blocks to consensus blocks, which will free up a lot of or help us address a lot of issues that we were kind of seeing. One of them, namely, being a lot of empty domain blocks as we had to progress domains during the challenge period in order to get confirmations. So be on the lookout for that. And then really a lot the highlights from this week have been mostly focused on a continuation of the work we talked about last time. So cross-domain messaging continuing to be worked on, and progress is being made there. I know Shamil has been working hard on getting our fast sync, which I think is going to be amazing. Once we have, that's going to be a huge user experience improvement. And as Jim mentioned, Nazar has just been crushing the farmer user experience improvements. And I hope everyone's appreciative of that, and there is more to come. So it's quite exciting. What else do we have? Daria, you want to talk about the work that we've been doing on dynamic issuance and the impact that's going to have to what farmers are seeing in their balances when we launch this.
Yeah, Jim just teased it a little bit. I will be also coming to developer open office hours this Wednesday to talk about it and clarify all the questions in a little greater than a few minutes. But yeah, we've decided it's time to start sharing with the community the fruits of several months long effort. There was been a great cross-team collaboration between R&D, engineering, finance, and our external partners, Block Science, to finally completely define our tokenomics and make an economic model of the whole system that we have and define the issuance function. We're still working out the numbers for mainnet, but we have to test it before we go to mainnet, and that's why we have the test nets. So we will be rolling out an implementation of dynamic issuance to Gemini 3H in hopefully within the next couple of weeks. Because I'm still finalizing the shape and the numbers. So what that is going to look like? It's for members of our community that are sort of familiar of like Bitcoin halving, would be that every from when we start And for many, many years, the block rewards are going continually decrease until at some point, in many, many years, they are going to reach zero. However, the Bitcoin process is pretty simplified. It has the same reward for some amount of time, then it cuts it in half, gets a little step, then has the same reward for some amount of time, cuts it in half again. And if you imagine it, it's going to come in like ladder. What we are implementing has pretty similar economic reasons of actually implementing it, but it's going to be just a smooth curve with, we also have 18 points of precision in Subspace credits. And we are going to be rolling out in Gemini 3H. And to be able to test it for longer, the decay is basically going to start immediately after we roll it out. So right now, farmers and voters all get 0.1 TSSC exactly for every block and every vote. And to be able to test the decay, we'll start decreasing it a little bit every block. So it's going to be 0.099999, 0.099998, 997, really slowly, small digits, but you will just going to notice that it's not going to hit 0.1 in your wallet every time. So please don't panic. It's not like the chain is broken or there are some rounding errors or something else. It's just we have to test it, and we decided to kick it in right away. And I will be doing hopefully a more coherent roundup of all of this on Wednesday in Developer for Hours. And I think go ahead, Jeremy.
Also note that block space utilization will also impact that for the proposer, correct?
Right, yes. So right now we have two players in the network that are block proposers and voters, which are still the same farmers, just sometimes they get lucky enough to have a good solution to propose a block, and sometimes they don't get lucky enough to produce the block, but they can still produce a vote and get some reward for that. But the block proposer not only gets the reward from the protocol, he also gets the fees from whatever transactions or bundles are in the block. So to be able to conserve a little bit the protocol issuance and extend it in time, we've developed mechanisms we call it dynamic issuance that basically sees whether the fees in the block are high enough for the proposer. It will decrease whatever is issued by the protocol. Well, we'll be posting out like the graphs and blog posts in that, but it's pretty cool. It's that part is pretty innovative. The halving part is pretty accepted in the space already, and the dynamic issuance part is cool. Yep.
Jim.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, just because as Daria said, because the rewards you're going to see in your wallet are going to change. We don't want people panicking, so I'm going to work on a forum post and get Daria to check the maths on it. That will be coming out tomorrow if everything goes as I'm hoping it will. And yes, please do join us on developer office hours on Wednesday, because if this is something that you want to dig into, Daria will be there to explain and take questions, which we thank you for, Daria.
Yeah.
Also worth noting that from a incentivized testnet perspective, we've decided that we'll be counting votes and blocks, not looking at the actual reward. So this isn't going to actually have any impact on kind of the breakdown between like the beginning of the testnet and ongoing. So even if rewards were to go to 0.01, it'll be the same. It'll be comparable because we'll be counting the number, not the amount. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's something that I'm going to try and explain in that blog in the forum post tomorrow.
Yeah, it's basically how many. So the incentivization would work about how many times you have voted, not how many SSC you have earned for those votes.
Right.
yeah, we'll be try to clarify that. And if it's not clear enough in the forum posts, our great ecosystem team is always on Discord to help and answer. Yep.
Cool. And I think our next item is also, Daria, the work you're doing to kind of, so it's really, I think, our first step in having a SIP process. But do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I've been doing some, well, kind of housekeeping of our various documentations, write-ups, and specifications in an effort that is going to come to fruition a little later, closer to mainnet, which is putting all of our specifications into one place in one repo on GitHub. I'm talking about like stable specifications, things that are decided and already in the protocol, not the long roadmap or the things that we're still researching on. That would have that would make it easier for the community and external researchers to be able to access all of them in one place. It would be also easier to like track changes to them, and this will be the first step for us to having a process around subspace improvement proposals after mainnet, which would mean that every like code change, if it involves some change to specification, ideally should be followed not just by the pull request to the monorepo or but also by like a pull request is going to be reviewed, approved, possibly voted on to the specifications so that everything is mirrored and everything is in line. But right now I'm still in the process of just converting the documentation from Notion to like Markdown because there are a lot of cross links to Notion, a lot of diagrams that will need to be migrated, a lot of that. So it's basically I'm working on it when I don't have higher priority items right now.
Great. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I think it'll not only make it easier for our community and external to kind of see the specifications, but make the management of those specifications, I think, much more robust. So time to leave Notion behind, as pleasant it is to work in. Well, that is all I had for this call this week. Is there anything from anybody else on the team they want to discuss before we say goodbye and see everyone in 2 weeks? All right. Well, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to it.